That's where everything happens. That's where the opportunities are. That's where people want to be. That's where it's cool. You know, young people, there's so much to see. So today we want to talk about the Wizard of Oz. Or do you have a different name for that in Italian?
No, it's an American story, so.
So the Wizard of Oz kind of reminded me of John Wick.
Okay, why?
Because the catalyst is the dog. The dog, there's something going to happen to the dog, Toto, and that's when the whole adventure starts. It's like, no, you're not having my dog. Saves Toto, who is, by the way, friggin' genius.
So Toto, I think, from my point of view, is her innocence in a way, and also her intuition. I think is something pure that, of course, is animated through a dog that they're trying to take it away from her. And that's why she's trying to run away, just to protect him. But also the dog acts in different ways to help her to get away from difficulties or situation throughout the journey. I really like this story. I remember when I was very young, I've watched the movie and I had to rewatch it again. But I like the idea of the shoes. That is something that come up of my mind. And then, yeah, we decided to talk about this story. And I found a good connection through this period of time, and also our journey, personal journey.
What's the connection between nowadays and the Wizard of Oz? Like, how can we use it as a reference point, or like, how is it important to us now?
I really like the fact that she's going outside the home. So the idea, a little family, they live in the countryside, and then basically there is a journey going to the city, where is chaos and everything is colorful, and there is so many attraction. You know, as soon as she gets to Emerald City, they start like giving her, you know, massages and a shower and look and a pretty dress, and you know, a haircut and everything seems beautiful, seems shiny.
The Tin Man is the epitome of what you're talking about. Like, they literally polish him up to make him perfect.
Yeah, there is also this idea, but the Tin Man is, I think it is the figure of inside ourselves, like searching for our heart or searching for something outside of ourselves. And there is in Emerald City as well, like searching something there, thinking that is outside ourselves.
Well, each character is kind of a representation of different part of us, right? So you got the brain, the heart, courage, and Dorothy, who's kind of she's like leading the adventure, really, isn't she? Because she's the one that needs to get to Emerald City to get home, basically. This is why I like these old stories, because it makes us kind of self-reflect. You know, it's like you're talking about, we have all of these different traits or things we're looking for already inside of us. You know, like the Scarecrow, he comes up with all the different plans and like things. He's like, oh, maybe we should do this or do this. And they're using these things that they're seeking already. You know, they don't need to go to Emerald City. They just have to stop and kind of self-reflect a bit and go, actually, you know what, like, have some what kind of confidence, I guess, in themselves.
If we pay attention throughout the movie, they do act like they have it, even though they don't recognize it. Like the Tin Man, when Dorothy fall asleep in the garden of the flowers, in the land of the flowers, he start crying. So, you know, if he didn't have the heart, why should cry? And he cried even in the beginning they met. And also the lion that is looking for courage, but he tried to run away, but every time they had a problem, he stayed there, even though he was shaking and thinking that you should be there. Is stand, and he was there. And strong man missing the brain. He had such good ideas when they were fighting with in the castle and trying to get away from the witch of the west. Like we can't recognize our values, our ability. We want to have that recognition from outside. This is it's basically psychology. To understand who you are, you have to go in like outside, challenge yourself and meet with other people, and the other people can give you the feedback. But sometimes it's good to have like those feedbacks and those experiences in life to really understand who you are. Otherwise, if you don't have that, you don't really understand your full self. And this is how we understand who we are, our limitation, having those feedbacks. But on the other hand, we don't need the certificates, we don't need nothing material to recognize those things.
Like getting the feedback is important, right? Like the friends are there to stick you up when times get tough. Like when the lion's trying to escape, his friends grab him and they're like, "Hang on, no, you're gonna come with us," and they're kind of encouraging him to face his fears and do things. And I think it's important to have that kind of community aspect to things. I mean, people, all kinds of shapes and sizes, whether it's tin men or straw people or old people, anything. It's good to have the variation of all the different friends because they all bring something different to the table. Isolation is very bad for us when we're stuck in a one space on our own, and the only way to communicate is via online. I think it's so bad for us because you don't really know all the people online. There's lots of random people, and maybe they're not so good for you. Whereas your friends, you should vet them. Like if you don't like somebody, you don't hang out with them.
I think it's a good balance. But like as a Dorothy, you're the young kid, you need to experience certain things while you're growing up because you have to understand who you are, and this shape who you are. But when you grow up and understand who your values and everything, it's good to have moments to readjust, to breathe, to understand who, like, and really take a decision throughout your life, but in the Dorothy story and the Wizardofoz, I think is really good to take this journey. And yeah, I like the fact how it begins. She trying to run away from home and follow her dreams. And she met the Professor Marvel that he trying to trick her and tell her like, you have to feel guilty, you have to go home, your auntie and your family is gonna miss you while you're doing this and everything. She's gonna be sick and everything without you. And all this, drama and lying is to make sure that she's going home and she's gonna be safe. It's a funny play because sometimes we have those kind of person in our lives. They trying to save us in some sense in bad decisions.
At the start of the film, she's trying to interact with everybody, and they're all kind of a bit dismissive, or they're not really interested. And she has this like vision, or not vision. She sings over the rainbow, because she wants to escape from that.
Yeah, because her auntie actually told her to go somewhere with no trouble. And she said, there is not such a thing. in life, you know, somewhere with no trouble. And that's why she starts singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, where everything is good and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I think that's give her, you know, those pretty imaginations to create the rest of the story.
She wants to go see the world, you know, and I don't know about you, I don't know where you grew up, but for me, I grew up in like a small town, and it was a thing I always had to go to a big city. You know, like I went to London and lived there for a while because it's, you sort of, you go to school, you go to college, and you're always in this like small area, you see the same people, and it's, as you get older, I think that's something you enjoy, but when you're young, you just want to see new things. You just want to explore and like injure yourself and, you know, try
And
new
also, you
things.
can't listen to anybody else.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah.
want to listen whatever, you know, suggestion. Oh, it's gonna be bad. Be careful. You just want to try.
Well, you don't listen. Like it's the same as the old saying, like you take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can tell somebody. So I'm thinking more of like an adult talking to a child, but you can tell the child, like you shouldn't do this. You're gonna hurt yourself or whatever. But until they physically injure themselves or have that reaction where they're like, oh, actually, yeah, that hurt, or yeah, I should have taken a jacket because I'm cold, you know. But then they learn because then that's stored in the brain. I feel like this is why we shouldn't coddle them so much, you know, where we sort of have safe spaces and all these things, but it's like the kid needs to explore and they need to see things and see the real world as well, you know, because online we create this like fantasy of what we think the world is. It's only when you actually put yourself out there that you see it and you see the kind of harsh realities of things.
I've noticed, and everybody can say that, throughout the film and throughout the story, there is this guilt that she feels the whole time. Guilt of running away, guilt of being away and not be able to come back straight away. Those sense of guilt that she can't embrace the situation she is in.
It's always at the
And
back
then
of her
I
mind.
think find out in the end of the story that it's important to embrace every stage of life, every situation of life. I think the shoes are basically the power that we have because we don't see it or recognize it. We're not using it. Throughout the story, she had the possibility to recognize, has the brain, she has the heart, she has the courage, and then she has the possibility to use her magic to get whatever she wants, right? In the end, of course, it's a lesson. I think the witch, in a Freudian way, we can correlate through mother problem or, you know, fear of succeeding, because she was like, I'm gonna kill you. You know, she was like fear of death. Are you gonna die? This is the time. And she was like, I'm gonna kill you. But you have to watch the time going. And then when it's finished, I'm gonna kill you, you know? And she was like, you can kill her anytime. I think it's just basically our past traumas and shadow that sometimes come and scare ourselves off. And we are scared, you know, about death, about not succeeding, about, you know, and she's really afraid. And I think that the witch of the West is basically that, like, tell her all the time that she has not enough time, she's gonna die soon, or, you know, that is bad for her and she's gonna take it away from her soon. And then the funny other things that just water kill her, you know, washing things out. Just remember, even when you wake up, you know, you wake up and, for example, you have a glass of wine instead of a glass of water. It's a different mindset. You start in different way your day. To get to Emerald City, she had to show the fact that she had the shoes, the ruby shoes. Without them, she couldn't get in. So I think that is also a correlation of, you have to have kind of a power, kind of, something valuable to
Well,
use it to
yeah,
get in.
exactly. And it's almost like she's coming to the big city. In my head, like big cities, like, I don't know, London, San Francisco, Sydney, status, what you have, material is very important, right? So if
As
she
well.
just, and yeah, exactly as well. And they turn up and they're all kind of disheveled, the Tin Man's all rusty and stuff. And they're stood there and the city won't accept her. The city
Mm.
won't let her in or them in until, like you said, they offer, or they don't offer, but until they see, oh, okay, they've got this, therefore they can join us, and
Mm.
yeah, I feel like this is the material world we live in, really, isn't it? We always judge by appearance, and we shouldn't, it's an old saying, like, don't judge a book by its cover, but we do judge by appearance, and even like the car you drive, and this is more prevalent in certain places in the world, and obviously in cities, it's way more prevalent because status is a thing.
And we see that in, The Wizard of Oz, how it created this massive, gigantic, show to keep that people and everybody's watching through this mysterious and fearful scenario, have their attention. And we have that through everything that keep us our attention is TV, internet, advertising, politics, pretty much politics, and those figures, they telling us how we should live, how we should be, how we should think sometimes. And then on the side, the dog take the tent away, and he was like playing and trying to keep everything on going
Yeah,
through that.
it's all a show.
It's all the show.
We talked about the dog being her intuition. The dog knew something wasn't right. He's seen all this shouting and fire and imagery, and the dog peeks around the curtain and sees the guy, and he shows the man pulling the levers to everybody else. Throughout the Wizard of Oz, they're in this incredible landscape of all this beauty and all these. Everywhere you look, there's animals in the background, all kinds of like different things happening. Yet the focus is Emerald City, and like you say, it's this big metropolis that's in the background that people are striving for and chasing. And then once they get there, they have to fit in. So they're painted, and Dorothy is like the things put in her hair, or the lion gets a little ribbon.
And also, it just came out of my mind this saying that we have in Italy, that all the roads go to Rome. It's funny because throughout the movie, even though it's an American story, but this main road, this yellow main road, was going just only to Emerald City.
That's where everybody wants to be, and they have things, the horse changing color in each shot. It's very visual, like external. Everything about it is impressive. When Dorothy gets upset and she sat there and she's crying about her aunt, that kind of breaks the hard visage of the guy. I can't remember his name. He's in green, and he's basically like the conductor. He's like, oh, you can't go see the wizard now. And only when Dorothy's crying, it kind of cracks that shell, and he's like crying so much. Where he's like kept everything inside, because in the city, you can't show weakness, you can't show emotion as such. So when he sees this little girl crying, it sort of pulls on his heartstrings, and that's what in the end he goes, okay, you can go see the wizard, lets her through. Like, cities are the hubs of humanity, right? That's where everything happens, that's where the opportunities are, that's where people want to be, that's where it's cool. Young people, there's so much to see.
And also, as we saw that, the Wizard of Oz was basically saying lies. I can give you what you ask for, but you have to do this. What do you give me? I already have everything. I already have the brain. I already have the heart. I already have the courage. Come in there and ask for that is just something that you have to understand, that you already have it. Even though they take the mask out, they found that he was a normal man. They were already like they were still
Con
he
artist.
was still given the the diploma and the degree or something, and the
They
little
still
heart
fall for it.
was, and he was like playing to bring Dorothy back home in a balloon.
Everybody in the city is kind of worshipping the Wizard of Oz, the king essentially, yet he's an illusion. He's not real.
It's
Do
an
you think
illusion.
do you think the people in the city know it's a man behind the curtain? Because at the end he takes her up in the balloon and it's not the big face that takes her up in the balloon, it's the man. And everyone's there and they're like, yeah, like this. So they kind of are
It is
aware. They're kind of aware that it's an illusion. They know that it's not real.
politics. We know there are no gods, but we start treating them like they are. In the end, because the balloon was flying away with the Wizard of Oz and Dorothy and the dog, but the dog were like last minute jumped away from, and she ran away with trying to catch Toto. The Wizard of Oz was already away and she couldn't catch the balloon anymore. The good witch appeared and she told her like she had the possibility to go home in the first place. And she was crying and everything, and she understood finally that it wasn't enough just want to see Uncle Henry and Auntie Em, and that if I ever go looking for my heart desire again, I wouldn't look in any further than my backyard, because if it isn't there, I never really lost it to begin with. I like this bit because she understands that her adventure, her exploration is also important as her home place. Everything that she was wanting to have is already in herself and was already back home in the beginning. But at the same time, the story tell us the opportunity to discover freely and go for adventure and be able to enjoy that journey without guilt. She had the opportunity to say goodbye to everybody and get back home, and everything was basically a dream.
She had the choice to leave with the wizard, didn't she? But she chose to stay, and that was almost like the final lesson, right? Like if she'd gone home with the wizard, he's almost done the same thing as what Dr. Marvel did at the start of the film. He said, "Oh, I'll do this for you," and the illusion continues. But instead, she was like, "Actually, you go, Toto. Me and Toto are gonna stay," and yeah, that's when she gets her final lesson. What was the final lesson? It's the fact that all of this stuff is inside all along.
She couldn't like find it somewhere else. She had to find it inside herself.
What do you think sort of people take away from watching The Wizard of Oz, like nowadays? What do you think we could learn from the film?
I think the power of illusion is really good for creativity, play, to good for adventure, to create something. But we have to be careful with illusion. The reality is more important, more real. The connection with your family, your friends, the reality that we live on are more real than anything else, than any lies. And we have to be careful when, in those big cities, especially when there is a lot of things going on and everything looks so good, smells so good, tastes so good, that we are so far away from who we are, and sometimes change who we are. After year, sometimes we lose touch for who we really are, and that is the main important thing.
Yeah, the shiny lights and things can take over the glamour. It happens with Hollywood, like with the actors when they become famous. They get caught up in the fame. I think this is why people relate to those artists and actors and things that kind of stay out the limelight. There's a sense of respect for those that aren't being so showy or trying to be involved in every red carpet. I feel like they're genuine artists as well. People that aren't doing it for the fame, they're doing it because they enjoy getting into those characters or creating things for the sheer act of creating. And they'll do a better job as well, because if you're doing things for external gratification, validation, then it's not gonna, like, you're not gonna do as good as someone that's doing it because they actually enjoy it.
It is a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky because I think, like, I used to do theater, and I loved it. And in the beginning, it was like a fear of somebody judging me. When I start having a few shows and the theater with my friends and everybody, was amazing. And see that connection, that response, because basically the other person, the other people outside yourself, is basically yourself. But I think is keep on listening. That is important. Listen to yourself and listen to the other people. But the problem is when the money is involved, when all your ego start to take over you, then you lose touch of reality, become an illusion. What that feeling of God that they give me, so I am God. Like the Wizardofoz, like trying to create that illusion, that it become that illusion. He lost himself. It's good to desire, it's good to,
Have
explore
ambition
and everything. But at the same time, there is like, it's the same having too much chocolate. When you have too much chocolate, it's not good for you. Or everything. When you have too much of it, it's not good for you. And I think billionaires or like people with a lot of money has responsibilities. And they have to really understand that they impact in a big way for a lot of people.
Who's your favorite
the fact
character?
That is true, man.
Storm, why?
I don't know.
Do you resonate with him? Do you feel like he is seeking something you are?
I think it's because he's missing the brain in some sense. They give him no structure, going everywhere, losing himself everywhere, because I think that is one of the symbolism. If you don't use your brain and you don't, center yourself, you losing yourself around. And even with the team, man, without the heart, we are rigid, not like too rigid. We don't feel, we don't move, we don't look around, we don't step back forward, we're just rigid. I also like the symbol of nature, like it's a tree, the apple tree.
Oh yeah. What, like punching? It's like shouting, "Get off me!"
Yeah, like throw them the apples and
From the trees chucking the apples. Initially, it's like but then after a while they're like, "Oh yeah," like, and they start taking the apples. So it's like, with life, when things are chucked at you, you have to kind of embrace it, and you can use it to your advantage.
We have so many stories, folklore, fairy tales that talk about there is like a love involved, but this time there is no, prince or princess. She is like a young girl going to a journey and she found friends. And I like that community that is unfolding for her, mirroring her through this time. And it's beautiful because everything, like, is pretty much in our life. We have everything that we're going through are mirroring us and showing us certain things when we point out something about somebody else is something that trigger deep down in ourselves, and we have to question, work on it. And
I like what you
it's
said to
good
me
to,
about when you're pointing the finger, there's three back at you.
yeah.
So you point your finger and you project onto somebody else. You're like, oh, that person's scruffy. You're looking, there's three back. So I like that analogy. I like that message.
Yeah, I think have changed my whole perception.
When something aggravates you or annoys you, unless someone's been like outright rude to you, like what, it's normally an internal or even your reaction to someone being offensive towards you. So if someone calls you a rude name and you react and you get angry, that's still happening in your mind. Like you've chosen subconsciously or whatever to be reactive to that insult. You could have just ignored them. You could have gone, oh, I feel sorry for this person because they're clearly having a
I
bad
know
day.
who I am. Yeah, I know who I am.
So
I
you're
know
sensitive about
I'm
something.
not, yeah, and also I'm not what they think I am, because sometimes we also mirror somebody else, and sometimes the other person is going through other stuff, and we don't know. We created that reaction that is really strong. I also like the fact when Dorothy randomly starts sleeping in the land of flowers just before getting in Emerald City. So that, as soon as we almost there, sometimes we, you know, if, we let down and we think that we cannot make it. And then, yeah, we are so close to reach what we want that sometimes we, going inside this kind of a depression stage. And they were like, she was sleeping, the others were crying for her, the team man, and snowing randomly. Like the ocean area have changed dramatically. And yeah, was there is a lot of symbolism throughout the movie, and it's a great story for the time.
Also, like those old films and old music focus more on beauty and like I feel like now everything has an agenda. Like the old film was just something you go to cinema, disconnect from reality, you watch this spectacle, and you all teleported into the world that the character's living, and you live kind of through them in the film. But nowadays there's so much messaging, and you can't really disconnect from reality when you go to the cinema.
I think there is less and less heart. Is more trying to catch your attention and keep your attention until the end, with fighting, with colors and beautiful animations as
But
well.
when was the last time you like cried at a film?
It was a very long time ago, to be honest. I do like romantic movies, but it's
But like
very
recent,
hard.
like a recent film.
Recent. Maybe The Lion, The
A
Leon,
lion.
The Leon,
Lion.
the
Oh, set in
Indian.
India. Yeah, but do you know what? That film isn't mainstream. Like, yeah, they have
Yeah, it's
some big
not.
characters.
Yeah, it's a real story.
It's a real story. It's kind of a documentary film. It is a beautiful film. Like, I loved it, but it's not what's at the cinema. Like it's not the Marvels. It's not the big action films, which are just spectacle. Which even the spectacle in them's kind of lost its amazement because it's all green screen. It's all CGI. You know, there's some sets, but a lot of the stuff you look at, like if you'd have the behind the scenes film, it's all just green. You know, there's no amazing sets like in Wizard of Oz, and I just feel like it's all become about money now rather than like actually create. Like obviously it was about money. It's always been about money. That's the whole. It's the industry, but it was still art. You know, it's still like an art form.
Yeah, art itself requires time, first of all, requires sense of understanding of the person that is writing the script, and also shouldn't be about money. Should be other, values about writing a script. So understanding who is behind, understanding the values that you want to get across. And when I was young, I used to watch so many movies. Sometimes I was watching 3 movies a day. Like,
Bloody hell.
I was going insane. And because at the time I was trying to find the message behind the story all the time. And in the past, there were many, actually. Lately, there isn't much anymore. There is a story, okay, maybe to conquer
But it
something.
feels more like propaganda now, where it's just like, oh, this is how you should think, rather than having a message of like, you know, be courageous, or there's more to the story than just her going to the wizard, beating the wizard, and then going home. You know, there's a lot more messaging within that.
And also hard lately to find movies they end well.
Well, they're always cliffhangers because they're waiting for the next one.
They end dramatically, or they end with sense of like how is going on next, and keep that tension, that emotion going, and is a bit anxious. You know, make me anxious. I'm like,
Well, you're
I
not
wanna
coming
feel
full
good.
circle, are you? You're not finishing what you started. It's all just open ended. We need to complete the stories, otherwise you're kind of left a bit deflated or disappointed.
Yeah, it's a circle.
Okay, so from The Wizard of Oz, what value did you pull from that film?
Top 3, community, which friendship is very important, and I like that. Intuition, trust your gut.
Trust Toto?
Nothing, trust total. And nothing is as it seems like. What is yours?
You have a sense that you need something that's out there, when the reality is, happiness is in you. Like, your brain creates happiness. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, please give us a like and subscribe.
Thank you very much for watching us.
See you on the next one.